I'm just gonna start this video off by saying the most craziest thing ever, but I truly believe that Kanye West's song Cousins is the most important song of 2025 and the entire decade of the 2020s so far. It feels like right now in the rap game, we are in a very interesting place where some of the most prominent artists we all know and love are now dropping their most forgettable and worst albums today. I mean, look at Drake, who's trying to do something with this brand new album, Iceman, and he's clearly failing at that rollout because the public perception for all the music he's been previewing has been absolutely horrible, all the way to producers that we really love like Metro Boomin, who just dropped a brand new project, A Futuristic Summer, and that thing flopped. Then to mainstream acts like Playboy Cardi, who had the highly anticipated album I Am Music drop this year, which he is now struggling to sell out shows for his upcoming tour he's about to start in just a few days. With all of this mid and forgettable music dropping nowadays, it really does seem like nothing actually lasts more than a week in the music industry, and I do believe that that is because the substance in this music is not really special, and most artists don't actually care about the craft of music. And this is where I believe that Kanye's brand new song Cousins, which came out just a few months ago, really is going to be a song that we are not only going to remember in 2025 but for the rest of the 2020s decade, because this song is special, unique, and most importantly, not forgettable. And now for those of you guys that don't know what the song Cousins by Kanye West is, it's basically a song that Kanye dropped a few months ago when he was going on his crazy rants. And this song was about a traumatic time during his life when he was a child along with his cousin, and they used to engage in sexual activities together, such as oral sex. And this was something that Kanye and his cousin later on in their life vowed to not tell anybody. But Kanye then decided to drop this into a song because he felt that it was very important to share this moment with the world, because he was tired of holding it in and he just didn't want to have that fear of someone one day finding out, and he wanted to really just express how traumatic this event was for him. And the day Kanye West dropped this song, he also ended up dropping a music video, which I can't show on this video because it is kind of weird and disturbing, but the caption of the song said something along the lines of, when Kanye was a young boy, you know, with his cousin and they were hanging out, they were always exploring and doing silly stuff, such as, you know, going into their parents' closet, going into their parents' drawers. And that is where Kanye and his cousin at the time ended up finding Playboy magazines. And now in these Playboy magazines, it was obviously made for women, so it was sexual photos of men. And Kanye and his cousin didn't know what they were looking at. They didn't know what was happening in those photos, and they started to reenact those photos with themselves. And as weird, disgusting, shameful, and just disturbing this song is, along with the overall premise, that is truly why I feel like this is one of Kanye West's most vulnerable and important songs of his entire career, and just the entire year of 2025 and the entire decade of the 2020s. Because when we think about music and we think about hip-hop, it's about being vulnerable, it's about sharing traumatic experiences, it's about sharing how you really feel. And I truly feel like this track is the most vulnerable thing a human being can do, and there's no other layer, there's no other type of way you can get more vulnerable and just open about something compared to this track, Cousins. Along with the actual premise of this song, the actual song itself, production wise and just the way it sounds, it's pretty good and one of the best Kanye West songs to come out recently, with the rapper Dave Blunt's completely ghostwriting it. Now, Dave Blunt's didn't ghostwrite it in a way where it was all out of his thought. Basically, at the time, Kanye West was talking to Dave Blunt about this traumatic experience, and he just asked Dave Blunt to put it down in the way of a song, and then Kanye would just recite the lyrics. But all the original ideas and the premise of the song came from Kanye. And sonically, the soundscape of this track sounds very dark and eerie, with some sort of grunge type of sample right in the beginning of the track, which really just fits into the atmosphere and type of topic of the song, where it's depressing, dark, and it almost kind of feels like you're being watched. And I think it was intentional because the way Kanye West had that traumatic experience, I'm pretty sure is reflected into the actual production of the song. And if I were to guess, when Kanye was having those traumatic experiences with his cousin and vice versa, they were having a feeling of shame, they were having a feeling of getting caught, they were having a feeling of being paranoid. And in this song, you can really feel that type of vibe. And this is definitely a very, very heavy track that you don't just listen to lightly. One of my favorite parts about this track is the beat switch during the song, where Kanye West goes from being melodic in the beginning to him kind of rapping towards the end. And then the outro sounds very, very euphoric, with it sounding like you're being ascended into heaven. And it kind of feels like Kanye did that on purpose, because that euphoric feeling is supposed to reflect how free he feels from being vulnerable and sharing this traumatic experience on this song. Now, there's a lot of people that ended up giving hate to this track when it first came out, and still people that look at you crazy if you say that you enjoyed this track or you respected Kanye for even dropping this track. But in my response to that, I just find it stupid. And the reason why I find it stupid is because this was a traumatic experience that he had. So I just don't understand that when this song came out, the entire internet was clowning him. They were calling him sick and they were calling him mentally ill. But this is something that he went through. And something that I learned about this song is that when I was on the comment section of this song, when it dropped on Twitter and when it dropped on YouTube at one point, I was actually finding out that a lot of people went through this similar experience. Now, I've never went through this experience. I don't know anybody that has gone through this experience, but online at least, I saw a lot of people saying that this is something a lot of people went through in their early life when they were a child, where they ended up either getting, assaulted by a relative or manipulated into doing something, and they ended up doing something because they didn't know what they were doing, or they ended up doing something with another person when they were younger and they just didn't know what they were doing. And it was the same scenario where they were watching, Playboy magazines or other stuff like that. While the majority of their internet was clowning on Kanye for dropping this song and saying that he was sick in the head, there was a huge minority of people that actually have went through this type of similar experience and would never have wanted to share this and would have been scared as hell to share this, rightfully so. And they actually respected and resonated with this track because Kanye was able to, speak about this issue that really goes untalked about, but is pretty common. I do also just find it hypocritical because I feel like deep down, if Kendrick Lamar dropped a song like this, it would have been a whole different narrative where Kendrick Lamar would have gotten praised. Kendrick Lamar would have gotten loved. He would have gotten accepted. But when Kanye did it, it was an issue. And I mean, we've seen Kendrick Lamar drop very, very vulnerable songs. I mean, look at Auntie Diaries, where he's talking about one of his family members becoming a transgender and how he had to accept that and how it was difficult for the community to accept that, right? And a lot of people respected Kendrick Lamar for that song. And I do think that was a vulnerable song for Kendrick Lamar to make. And I do think that was a beautiful song that Kendrick Lamar made. And I love when artists make vulnerable songs like that. But I feel like when Kanye ended up doing this song, which was very, very, very vulnerable, probably one of the most vulnerable things we've seen in hip hop, it was an issue. And I think even just the overall idea of the song Cousins is extremely scary to make in the hip hop community, because in the hip hop community, it's very over masculinized. And we've seen it time and time before where artists like Lil Nas X enters the genre, right? And he makes decent music and he gets a lot of hate. He gets ridiculed because, of his orientation and who he identifies with and who he identifies as a person, right? And it's very hard for artists like him. So when Kanye ends up dropping a song like this, we already know, he already knew what the feedback was going to be in the genre and how much hate he was going to get, and he still dropped it. I feel like I'm yapping though, but what do you guys think? I truly feel like Cousins by Kanye West is one of the most important songs to come out this year in Kanye's career and just the 2020s decade. And there is a reason as to why that song will not be forgotten compared to every other type of song, album, or just music that is dropping this year. But make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, follow, hype up the video. We're trying to get to 2K subscribers before 2026. So if you guys could do that for me, that'd be amazing. But catch you guys in the next one. Peace.